Hi, welcome back to the Wisdom of Your Soul. I'm your host, Janice Mary. I hope you're having a wonderful day. We have a lot to talk about today. As always, trying to connect to our soul energy so that we can live a life that, is just much, much more peaceful, satisfying, and filled with all the things that you really want for yourself in your life. Before I connected to the soul energy, listening to my ego and all the complaints and criticisms was really a way of life, and trying to help my clients and trying to help myself at times was pretty tricky. It's not easy having a very strong ego telling you you're not a great therapist and you're not really helping people, and how can you really help somebody? You have had failed relationships and you're so imperfect. So my ego was really getting the best of me when I decided to really, really search and ask and research all kinds of different ways for people to just have a better, more peaceful life. And along the way, I started meditating and really looking for, different belief systems that I felt resonated more with me. I knew that basically that the ego's belief system was so harsh and so cruel, and I could see it in other people. I couldn't really see it in myself as much, but I could see how in other people the pain that these belief systems were causing them, and how much I really was passionate about trying to get people out of these belief systems. And then I realized that I was really doing the same thing. Maybe not in every area of my life, but definitely as a therapist, I felt very imperfect and always trying to search for the newest and best type of therapy to give to my clients. And in doing that, once I really found some belief systems that just were softer and were nicer and kinder, really helped me a lot. And once that started happening, things definitely did start to change for myself. My ego mind, that critical inner critic, was still there, but I just didn't take it as seriously. And I continued to meditate, and I continued to read all kinds of spiritual books and listen to podcasts and YouTube videos like these. I would listen to anybody that was thinking and believing differently. Again, we can't control the thoughts that come in, but we can control what we say to our thoughts, and we can control whether we believe them or not. So I was very interested in people that felt good about themselves, that basically felt good about themselves. And what I could see in the areas that they felt really good about themselves, they didn't really believe the ego mind. So when the ego mind came in, it was easier for them to say, that's not true, or that's silly, or they would take some of what the ego would say and leave the rest. So basically, they were just not being that hard on themselves in that area of whatever area they're feeling really good about in their lives. So what I could see from people is that people have areas of expertise in their life that they feel really good about, and in those areas they really don't consult the ego, or when the ego has a criticism, they don't really take it. They don't take it in as much. So if, say, you do feel really good about your career, you're making tons of money and you're very successful, the ego is quieter then. And if it's not, you have an easier time to not listen to it. So that's the same as being a parent or anything that you really feel like you're doing really well in your life. But in the areas that you feel inferior, the areas that you don't feel like you're doing as well, whatever area that is, that's where the ego can get really tough on us. And those are the areas they're like our insecurities. And, those insecurities really can get the best of us and really occupy most of our day. So if you have an insecurity, you can get caught up thinking about that one insecurity, and it can really take away a lot of your life. So what I really encourage people to do is to look at these insecurities, to say, when that ego comes in, to realize that those insecurities need attention and they need love. They don't need criticism. And, the ego is just very good at being a little harsh and critical. So another approach to deal with your ego, instead of trying to get rid of it and trying to hate it, it is a part of us. It's a part of being human to have an ego. And really the object of the ego is to protect us, to keep us safe, to keep our bodies safe. The ego will always say, don't travel, don't jump out of a plane, don't do all these things. So the ego in part wants to keep us safe, and that's not a bad thing. What I realize, though, with the ego is that the ego's tone can be very critical and very harsh and a little bullying and mean. So that's what we want to work on, not really believing and taking in, because then you feel like you don't have a choice. It's almost like having a boss that's really, not supportive and extremely critical, and you're always trying to please that boss, and it just never seems to work out so well. That's what the ego can feel like. So what we really want to try to do is befriend our ego, and just try to say, okay, I understand what you're saying to me. You're telling me that you think I'm weak in this area or I'm not good in that area. Whatever the criticism is that's coming into your mind, you want to just kind of befriend it and say, okay, I get it. I hear it. If I can do something about that, I will. And if I can't, I can't. So, and that is bringing a little bit balance back into your ego mind. So you're valuing it, you're hearing it, you're not trying to shut up the ego. A lot of my clients will say, like, I just want to get rid of this ego. I never want to hear any complaints. I don't want to hear any of that. I just wish it would just totally go away. And I think the more we value the ego and befriend the ego and try to find out what exactly it has to say, softens it. It's almost like when you're really upset about something and you want to talk about it and you just want to kind of vent and get it off your chest, and somebody wants you not to be upset. They're spending a lot of time on working on getting you to be happy again, and you just want to vent. And sometimes that's what the ego does. So the more we can befriend the ego, listen to it, take what it's saying to us that makes sense and maybe is a good suggestion, and leave the rest. Leave the harshness, the criticalness, the you have to be this way. To leave that part of the ego, not take that part so seriously, and just listen to what it is saying to you. It's not a bit. Is another way to work with something that is a part of us and is a part of being human, instead of fighting it so much. So when my ego mind comes in and says, that picture isn't so good. You look old and you look like crap, and I'll just say, okay, yeah, that isn't a good picture. That's true. That is true. So, but I don't, I am old, and there's nothing wrong with being older. And, I'm glad to be here at this age still, and, to try to soften it, to try to soften out that ego a little bit. So you can talk back to the ego. So it's just in a nice way, so that you can feel a little bit better. And as you're doing that, as you're bringing that softness to the ego, you're really bringing that energy that lives within inside of you, that soul energy, the wise energy that lives within you. That's the energy, and it will balance the ego for you. So that's a really good thing to just get kind of in the habit of doing. Listening to the ego, taking it for what it's worth, and then asking for that other option, asking for that alternative, asking for that softer voice, that the voice of love, the voice of source, the voice of spirit, the voice of God, the voice of wisdom, whatever it is that you want to label, this energy that lives within us is really something that you want to give an equal share of talking, an equal balance. Like I'll say to people, if you're playing a negative movie, we have to at least just give it give ourselves a chance to have the positive movie. So if all day long we're thinking and worrying and fearing, at least let's give the other half. And the other half is, well, what do I want to have happen in my life? Let me live in that movie just for 5 more minutes. Let me see all the good things that I want, and how things can go smoothly, and how easy my life can be for me, and how joyful my life can be for me. And that, again, gives balance to the ego, and it softens it for us. And the more you ask for that other half, so we have the positive and the negative, and I would definitely label the ego more in the negative part, and the soul is the positive part, and we need both in life. We need to have a little bit of both. So there's nothing wrong with that. So we don't have to try to kill our egos off. And, I'll hear people say, I just wish, I could just completely absorb, just get rid of this ego so I never, ever have to hear another critical thing about myself. And I think we can reframe the ego and just say, well, listen, the ego has value, just like everything has value in life. And if we look for it, if we look for value, if we look for why things are helpful, we'll find it. If we're always just saying, well, the ego is critical and nothing good comes from it, then, that's not so great either. We're not keeping it as open. So the soul energy, the energy of knowing, helps you to balance out your ego, because in your energy of knowing that you really are really okay and your life is great, and you're a perfect soul energy. When you're in that knowing, it's much easier than to really see the ego for what it is, and that it tries to help us and protect us. It's much easier to see it when you have the balance of connecting to your wisdom. When you really have that balance, you can just know that the ego is like a little bit like a child, and gets a little demanding, and gets a little temperamental, and gets bullying. And like a child, we just have to redirect it and help it. We don't have to get rid of it, though. It does have some value, and has some things that maybe we should listen to. So it is really I think it's a good approach if you're giving yourself a headache trying to always just be positive, positive, positive. Because I know I've tried that, where I just tried to be positive, positive all the time. And it's almost like, it gives you a headache and it doesn't work. And it's not really the way to go. There is a much easier way, and the easiest way is really to connect to the soul energy, and by doing that, it's just by asking for, in your mind, just asking for another way to look at a situation, or another way to look at yourself, or another way to look at your life. And, what you get in response is kind and loving and supportive and hopeful. That's what you get when you're in that energy of knowing. And I wish I could, just help people get into that energy really quick. But, for everyone, it does seem to be a little bit different of how they get into that energy. But once they get into that energy, and you have been in that energy, just not recognizing it, the trick is staying in that energy a little bit more so that you can learn more. When we go in and out of that soul energy, we could feel good for a little bit, and then we're back out and into the ego. So you're not in it as much as that could benefit you to give you the balance that you're looking for. So when we are in the soul energy a little bit more, even a little bit more than what you've been doing naturally, it really, really helps. And really just the way to do that is just to ask, is just to say, okay, this seems hopeless. I'm in all of these thoughts and this all seems hopeless. There has to be another way. And just to shelve your thinking, go take a nap. And before you go to sleep, just ask, can somebody, anybody, my soul, guides, angels, anybody give me a new perspective of this, and see what you get. I was getting frustrated because, I want so much for people to learn to be in this energy so that they could have more inner peace. And so I kept asking, well, is there another easier way that I can just like tell people, like they can just do this, this, or that, and they're in this energy of knowing? And the answer I got was no, basically no, that you can't, there's no easy answer, that I can't contain it and then give it to you, that it is a journey, that it is a journey for each of us. And through our lives and through our pain is how we learn to reconnect back to spirit. And that's our jobs to do that. It's almost like when we're born, we forget we're spirit. And then there's, as we go on in our life, a reconnecting to something that's we've always been connected to. When I say reconnecting, it doesn't mean that you've ever been disconnected. You've never been disconnected from your soul and your spirit energy. It's just that the ego and life and the world and the system of belief that the world gives us keeps us so busy for such a long time that we don't even know to ask another source. We don't know to do that. Some people that are just naturally spiritual do, people that are religious do, people that are raised with meditation do, but I think most of us here in our world do not and are very disconnected from this spirit that lives inside of us and that we don't really know so well. But when we do reconnect to it, when you do, however which way you do it, you will hit on this knowing, and you'll know because you just know, and you'll hear this very soft, loving voice that lives inside of you that is always supporting and always helping you and always telling you what a great job you're doing, and will always only point out, all the really good things about you. And they ring true because you'll just get images of things that you've done that maybe nobody noticed, but somehow this energy does notice it and does see you and does see all the beautiful, wonderful things that you do just in being who you are without even trying. It's just your energy of being is so valued and is so loved. And when you're more in that energy, when you really feel that, you really, really know it. You just know it. So you don't have to convince yourself to be positive. You don't have to convince yourself to like yourself. And it's really hard to like yourself in a world of a world that says nobody's good enough. It's pretty ironic, that this world really operates on a system of us not being enough so that it can sell us products and things to make us enough so that people can make a lot of money. And that's not a horrible thing. We all want to improve. We all want to be our best. We all want to lead great lives. But if we came from the premise that we are good enough as is, then we could just choose to have those things in our lives. It wouldn't be a have to. And that is a very different way to be in life. And when you're more connected into this energy, you just feel that and you know that. So when we're in these belief systems of, I'm somehow not good enough, it's really hard for people to get out of those beliefs. So you really have to help yourself to see that the root of your beliefs, to follow your beliefs. Where did this belief come from? Where does this belief that I'm not good enough even come from? Where in my life have I listened to somebody that said I wasn't good enough and I believed it? So if you follow the trail of your beliefs, you'll see that you're basing your entire life over, under a belief that says you're not good enough when you are. So we're all basing our lives and living up to proving this belief not true, that we are good enough. So we spend most of our lives trying to prove that somehow we are good enough when we don't have to and we've never had to. So it is a little ironic, but it is good news. It's good news that you don't have to do that anymore. You don't have to, try to improve yourself to some point so that you can feel as worthy as somebody else. You are just as worthy as anybody else, and we're all the same, and we're all connected, and we're all one. So just keep trying to ask for the other half. You've got the ego down pat. So ask for the other half, which is your wise mind inside. Give it a shot. Meditate. Be in nature. Nature is a great place to feel your spirit and your soul and get to know yourself. And to hear that voice talk to you, to hear that voice give you advice, I ask all the time for advice, and the advice I get, it makes me laugh sometimes, I was just reading an autobiography, and as I'm reading it, I hear this very loving voice say to me, why do you read so many biographies? What about your life? You have a great life. Why aren't you just living your life? And really the voice is very loving and kind and not mean or critical or anything. But it was like a very interesting reminder to me that there was some lack of value in my need to read other people's lives. That somehow other people's lives are more valuable or interesting or, going to tell me something that I need to know. And spirit, my soul, guides, my angels, whoever was trying to give me that message, it was so helpful, and it was so sweet, and it was so kind, and I knew it wasn't don't read the book. It was just a reminder again of my own value. So I'm continuing to read the book. That wasn't it. It's not like, I can never read a biography again. That wasn't it. It was another opportunity to hear from my soul or spirit that my life is just as valuable as this life that I'm reading about. And it made me feel really good, and it was a really good reminder. So, when we're always comparing ourselves to other people, we have to keep reminding ourselves to pay attention to our own lives and to keep doing the things that make our hearts sing, and do one thing after the next thing that we just like to do. And the more we're in the moment and we're just living and being content with who we are, every day is just a beautiful day and is an enjoyable day. And that I totally feel. And that's what I would love to bottle up and give to all my clients and to give to you. And that's what Spirit, my soul, was telling me that I can't do. So all I can do is share with you my experience and how much my life has changed. I was talking to a friend the other day, and she said, you are so different than you used to be. You're so much more relaxed, and you're so much happier, and you're just so much different. And that is just validation, because that's how I feel. And I'll just keep sharing it with you, and I'll keep sharing what I do hear from my soul and from the wisdom of my soul. I will remind you to really work on getting to know you, that inner you, that wise you. Keep turning within to you, and listen to the ego. Give it its due, and then just let it go. Don't take it so seriously. The ego has really learned the world's belief system, and that the ego wants you to be okay and wants you to be enough, because in the ego's mind, the ego feels like you're this world's you're a threat, you're under attack in some way. So we have to settle the ego down by listening to it, by giving it its value, and by not letting it control or rule you. So you can talk back to the ego in a very kind, nice way. And when you connect to the soul energy, you'll just know what to do, how to say it. You just know. So keep reaching to hear the other voice that lives within you. And you will walk away with the knowing that I'm talking about. And it will change your life. And it changes your life. It makes your life exciting and abundant, and all the things that you ever really wanted comes from living in that energy, because all doors open, because now you intuitively live your life the way you want to live your life, and you do the things that you want to do that the ego is telling you don't do because you're not good enough, or you're not going to make enough money, or whatever reason. You just start to live your life in a more soul-centered direction, and once you do that, you just can't even recognize your life anymore. And so I hope you'll give that a chance for your life. Have a great day, and we'll talk again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.